Good evening, Hypatia. I have had a very enjoyable couple of hours choosing something to read for you, and I have decided on two things: a poem and a bit of history. So I hope that you have had a lovely dinner, that you are now sitting being comforted by two lovely cats, and I shall give you something to listen to. Right, I will eventually. Here we go. The first one is by a poem. No, it's not. It's by a poet. It's by a poet called Philip Larkin. He is the chap you can see if you go to my HP store under the icon Librarian Chic, because he was, for most of his life, a librarian at a British university, and he was a very unusual character. He looks like a real weirdo and writes these wonderfully perceptive, moving poems about identity, love and loss. And he writes in a very clear style, which is why I've chosen to read him. So, here we go. On Being 26 by Philip Larkin. I feared these present years, the middle 20s, when deftness disappears, and each event is freighted with a sauce-encrusting doubt, and turned to drought. I thought, this pristine drive is sure to flag at 24 or 5, and now the slag of burnt-out childhood proves that I was right. What caught alight, quickly consumed in me, as I foresaw, talent, felicity, these things withdraw, and are succeeded by a dingier crop that come to stop. Or else, certainty gone, perhaps the rest, tarnishing, linger on as second best. Fabric of fallen minarets is trash, and in the ash of what has pleased and passed is now no more than struts of greed, a last charred smile, a clawed crustacean hatred, blackened pride. Of such I once made much. And so, if I were sure I have no chance to catch again that pure unnoticed stance, I would calcine the outward properties, live on what is. But it dies hard, that world, or being dead, putrescently is pearled, for I, misled, make on my own mind the deepest wound of all. Think to recall, at any moment, states long since dispersed, that if chance dissipates, the best, the worst, may scatter equally upon a touch. I kiss, I clutch, like a daft mother, putrid infancy, that can and will forbid all grist to me, except devaluing dichotomies, nothing, and paradise. Right, if you know all the words in that, I'm even more impressed than usual. I'll send you a link where you can see the text, so you can look them up if you want. Now, what else was I going to... Oh, that's right. By contrast, a little bit of history. And this is from a book that I really should read now. Actually, I haven't properly read it. It's called Caves of God, Cappadocia and Its Churches, by Spyro Kostof, Kostof. And it's a lovely book all about the stone churches in that region. I'm just going to read a little bit of the introductory history and read it properly, because I'm very interested in knowing more about Anatolia. Right, now, that's not what we want. I do beg your pardon, I should have had this ready. That would have been organised. Oh, that's not even... Okay. God, it's full of maps and things. Come on. Caves of God, Part 1. The Setting. The central part of Asia Minor, or Anatolia, has been called a Little Iran. It is a rocky plateau, naked and mournful, and like Iran, it reaches up at its extremities to the verdant mountain chains with which it is ringed. The contrast of barren tableland and wooded mountain is, if anything, more poignant in Anatolia, for here, on 3 sides of the land beyond the mountain range, lies the openness of the sea, whose long stretch of shore has bustled for centuries with urban activity. The fertile valleys of the Aegean coast to the west, the forest-clad slopes of the Black Sea and the Mediterranean, have drawn with steady rhythm colonists from abroad and invaders from the hinterland. They came for the mild climate and the freedom of the open waters, and the great gift of the seaboard, trade. They settled down and prospered. But prosperity comes hard at times in the land bowl of Anatolia. Cities are exceptional. Life tends to be nomadic. It fights against a difficult soil, inclement and capricious seasons, and the passage and movement of armies and peoples. Today, as it was 2,000 years ago, the cornfields are at the mercy of the rain. But, not uncommonly, it will be torrential downpours, which build quickly into floods. These are disastrous for the crops. These fast and useless waters are a mockery to the great plains which bake and crack under the blistering heat of the long summer months. They leave behind them swamps and malaria. And sometimes the rains might not come at all. Nowadays, help from the government is relatively prompt, but only recently. The drought of 1873 is said to have killed about 150,000 people. And as far back there are documents of droughts in the region. St. Basil the Great, Bishop of Caesarea, and the most renowned son of Central Anatolia, attributed this costly unpredictability of the seasons to God's justice on a sinful people. But even he lost patience at times when droughts, like the one of 368, ravaged his area, or again when severe winters cut him off from neighbouring districts and impeded his troubleshooting expeditions. "Shall I give thanks," he would say, "even when frozen with cold?" The land, for the most part, is flat. A few solitary mountains stand sheer on the monotonous expanse of the plains. They are naked but for dry, aromatic scrub, wormwood, wild lavender. Their foothills comprise often fantastically shaped rock formations, accidents of volcanic activity, and the wear of the elements. These isolated mountains are the only solid reality on the horizon, especially in the summer, when mirage effects are inescapable. This, then, is the beginning of the continent of Asia, just beyond the Aegean coast, which represents the furthest reaches of Europe. It is Asia, as one of the greatest travellers, Gertrude Bell, wrote, with all its vastness, with all its brutal disregard for life and comfort, and the amenities of existence. It is the ancient East, returned to its natural desolation. Cappadocia, with which we are here concerned, lies on the eastern half of the Anatolian plateau. Its area formed one of the Roman provinces of Asia Minor. It has no administrative meaning in present-day Turkey. Its name goes back to further than the Roman government. It is at least as old as Herodotus, who used the Greek version of Cappadocia, which is a variation on what the region was called by the Persians. And before the Persians, by whatever name it may have been called, the region had been occupied by the Medes, by Assyrians, and earliest of all, by the Hittites, an Indo-European people who arrived in Asia Minor about 2000 BC. At sites like, I'm going to have to say my first two Turkish words here, Alisha and Alatzahuyuk. Alisha and Alatzahuyuk, I'm sure that you can make those perfect. Settlements precede even the advent of the Hittites. Like every other corner of Asia Minor, Cappadocia has borne a long unbroken chain of occupants who moved in, established states, and saw them invaded and shattered.